Let's move on to Article 24, Prohibition of Employment of Children in Factories. Some poor children who do not have the freedom to go to schools because of their financial situations are prone to work as laborers. These children are exploited by making them work for longer hours and paying them less than what is owed to them. Besides, having to work at such a young age ruins their childhood. Considering that children are the future of our country, Article 24 prohibits employment of children in factories. Article 24 prohibits the employment of children below the age of 14 years in any factory, mine, or other hazardous activities like construction work or railways. But it does not prohibit the employment in any harmless or innocent work, like if a child is working in his father's shop, helping his mother in household work, working in movies, television, etc. To enforce Article 24, Parliament has passed some laws. The Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986 is the most important law in this direction. These are some other laws that prohibit child labour. In the last few decades, series of measures have been taken to protect children from harmful employment. In 1996, the Supreme Court issued directions that anyone who employs child labour should be fined with 20,000 rupees. This money should be deposited in the Child Labour Rehabilitation Welfare Fund. This fund would then be used for the rehabilitation of victims of child labour. In 2005, the Commissions for Protection of Child Rights Act was enacted. This act provides for establishment of a national commission and state commissions for protection of child rights and children's courts for providing speedy trial of offences against children. In 2006, the government banned the employment of children as domestic servants or workers in business establishments like hotels, dhabas, restaurants, shops, etc. In 2016, the Child Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986 was amended and renamed as the Child and Adolescent Labour Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986. The Amendment Act prohibits the employment of children below 14 years in all occupations and processes. Earlier, this prohibition was applicable to 18 occupations and 65 processes. Further, the Amendment Act prohibits the employment of adolescents, that is, children between the age of 14 to 18 years, in certain hazardous occupations and processes. The Amendment Act also introduces more stringent punishment for the offenders. It is an imprisonment of 6 months to 2 years, or a fine of 20,000 rupees to 50,000 rupees, or both. In case of repeated offences, the imprisonment is of 1 year to 3 years. In 2017, the Government of India ratified the two fundamental ILO conventions concerning the elimination of child labour: the Minimum Age Convention 1973 and the Worst Forms of Child Labour Convention 1999. The Convention number 138 requires to set a minimum age under which no one shall be admitted to employment or work in any occupation except for light work and artistic performances. And Convention number 182 calls for the prohibition and elimination of the worst forms of child labour, including slavery, forced labour and trafficking.